Never fear of missing out by clicking that subscribe button and becoming another member of the Babylonian family. How is it going, Babylonians, and welcome to another Technomancer build brought to you by me, Songs of Rays. Now we're going to look into what I like to call the bombing run build that's going to be focusing on scrapnels. It's going to be focusing on as much explosions as possible just to be able to deal that much damage. Now we're going to mix in with some comets, we're going to mix in fortress, we're going to go for anomaly power. So what we're going to do with this build is I'm going to show you the build, I'm going to show you what mods I've used to be able to create it and make it as devastating as possible. I'm going to leave the gameplay running in the background. I'm going to show you some screenshots just to show how I've actually got it and what kind of like gear to look out for and just keep yourself going. And then we're going to focus on what makes this great, what are the pros and cons, and just take it from there. So firstly in the video I'm going to show you a quick overview of what the build is, and then as it goes into the skills and it goes into the skill tree, I'm then going to put some screenshots up on the screen so you can actually see what each of those mods does, what I've gone into, and what makes these items special. So first off, you are going to need a Death Shield or a Fortress Tier 3 mod. I've gone for my Death Shield, which is 97.9k, which is one of the higher variants that I've got, and then I've put Shadow Comet on it. And Shadow Comet is brilliant in terms of a mod, and it's really nice for those anomaly power builds that don't necessarily have the firepower to be able to back up what damage they can do with the rest of their skills, so you can rely on Shadow Comet dealing that much more damage. Now the Shadow Comet does benefit from the Fortress mod, so we get another 43% on top of that because our armor is over 43k, and yeah, essentially you don't want to aim down sights with this, you just want to hit fire, spread as many comets as possible, and hopefully you just hit more than one target and you summon more than one comet. So moving swiftly on from there, we are going for a 3-piece in the Torrential Downpour set. Now the set bonus for this is Scrapnel creates additional cluster bombs after explosion, each dealing 121,989 anomaly power scaled damage, and this is quite a nice little damage bonus. You'll get to see a couple of clips with this, just how much damage this actually can do. But it essentially takes your scrapnel, which we're going to be shooting a lot of, and it just bumps it up in terms of damage and firepower and DPS, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So I've gone for the headgear because this goes into anomaly power, skills, life leech, and cooldown reduction, which is perfect. I've got a tier 3 mod on. I've changed it off because I believe it was fixing wave, and I'm not using fixing wave for this skill. So we're going for power assimilation, where we can boost our anomaly power by 11,000 for each elite that's present on the battlefield. This is a nice way to boost your anomaly power to even higher levels, and it's just literally who's actually on the battlefield. So I believe alpha perforers actually do count towards the elites. I'm not 100% on that, but I have seen a nice increase in my damage every single time one of those hits the field. So I probably need to do a little bit more testing just to confirm that, but the anomaly power you get from this, as well as what rolls onto the helmet, is brilliant. I've also gone for more traps, so we get one additional mine to be thrown before triggering the cooldown on our scrapnel, which is very nice and obviously comes into play when we get to the next piece, which is the Torrential Downpour armor. This also goes into anomaly power, skills, life leech, and cooldown reduction, which is perfect. This is probably the best kind of rolls that we want to be aiming for. And this comes with the tier 3 mod of Trap Cluster, where we double the number of mines that can be thrown before triggering the cooldown. And then on top of that, we've got the other tier 1 for supplies, where another additional mine can be thrown before triggering the cooldown. So we've got the standard one that we can throw, which is the skill. We've got the tier 1 for the helmet, which gives us another 1, which brings us to 2, and then the armor brings us up to 3, and then it gets doubled by Trap Cluster, so we have a grand total of 6 cluster mines that we can chuck out before we then start having our cooldown. And the cooldown is relatively short as well, so you can literally spam these for days, and as you'll see in like the skill tree, it actually kind of does benefit from the fact of how much we can throw this out. So yeah, so this is going to be the main kind of thing for all kind of mods for our scrapnel, and there's a couple others in the rest of the build, but these are the ones that allow us to have the quantity just to go forward. So moving from there, we've got the Torrential Downpour leg armor, so anomaly power, skills, life leech, cooldown reduction, perfect, that's exactly what we want. And this comes with Captain, well, I've put Captain Hunter on here because I believe that came with another mod that just literally had no need to be on this build. And it also had the tier 1 mod for more damage, which increases the skills damage by 119,540. So this bumps the damage for each individual scrapnel mine, and then we're also doing an extra 25% damage to elites, which is great. That helps us to take down behemoths and broodmothers and all those kind of things a lot quicker than we would have done originally. Moving from there, we've gone for some purple gloves to be able to go into anomaly power and cooldown reduction, skills, life leech. I'm sure you can see a pattern here. And this is where I start going, right, I'm going to need to boost my other skills because I can't just rely on the one. I'm going to have to rely on something else just to be able to deal a little bit of extra damage. So I've gone for Demolition Man, so we can use our rocket launcher from the Tools of Destruction. So each rocket deals an additional 210,003 damage, because apparently the 3 is really important to make sure that's on there. And then I've gone for Anomaly Echo. This was kind of one that I just thought of in the moment, where we get a nice firepower and anomaly bonus every time we activate a skill for 15 seconds. And I thought that's quite nice. I don't think this stacks, but either way, you're essentially keeping up that extra anomaly power, and that just keeps all your skills doing more and more damage as it goes on. And then last but not least, I have gone for the footgear of the cannonball. You can essentially replace this with anything that you want as long as it goes for anomaly power, cooldown reduction, and skills life leech, because you're going to need those. And I probably would recommend that you do find like a purple that can do this, because Phantom Dash, even though it's nice, doesn't necessarily help you that a fat lot in this build. So that's definitely something that can be a little bit more optimized as it goes on, but bang for your buck is definitely the best mod that's got to be equipped on here, because that activating that skill gives you another 100% base ammo increase for the selected tool, and we're going for the rocket launcher, so we're getting another 100% ammo on top of what we would have originally had. And that pretty much wraps up the gear and the mods that we would be rolling for, and just leaves us into the skill. So I've gone for scrapnel, obviously, because we're trying to power that up to be our main skill, and this will cool down in 9.6 seconds for how I've done this build. And then we've got Pain Launcher, which does, well, it's just there to do more explosions, just be able to cover a large area, and it's great for actually healing ourselves. So essentially, if you've got a line of enemies, you can just basically heal just consistently straight off there, and that cools down quite quickly as well, which I thought was quite nice. And then Tool of Destruction, which is our rocket launcher to fall back on. This is our main weapon of choice, and only do we ever fall back onto our Shadow Comet for when any of our skills are actually down and in cooldown. So the single rockets deal to according to the skill do 217,837 damage, but I believe it does a little bit more than that because obviously we've increased it with one of our tier mods, and you'll see in the background that you can easily get over 1 million points of damage per rocket actually shot out of this. So that kind of leads us onto the skill tree. I've primarily gone for a Demolisher bottom tree, and this is because we want to go into our anomaly power just to be able to boost it up as much as possible. And then from there I've spread up a little bit just to be able to give us a little bit of health, a little bit of skills life leech, and some more armor. And the armor is quite nice to be able to have in this one because you do feel a little bit squishy, especially since you can't rely on things like mitigation from death. It's possibly a mod that I would put there just to try that out on the instead of Phantom Dash, just to see if getting killed with the rocket launcher while aiming down sight actually does count towards that. But essentially, we're not always aiming down sight, so it doesn't really help a fat lot, really. The only other one I would probably suggest is there is a perk in the bottom tree that gives you additional skills life leech every single time you activate a skill. And obviously one of the 3 skills that we've got, and I do think that's probably nicer to have. If you're able to find a way to be able to get that in there, I do think that's a great way to go, but this is primarily how I've done it, just to be able to get a nice balance of survivability as well as the damage that we're looking for. So what do we like about this build? Well, if you're really into explosions and you're really into seeing like body parts going everywhere and just blood being everything, this is the build for you. This is about the best build to be able to make mincemeat out of everything that's on the screen, and it's so enjoyable to actually just chuck grenades everywhere that then turn into clusters to be able to deal with more enemies, and they also work as proxy mines. So if you do actually fancy taking just a back seat and just everything's going to rush to you, then just chuck all 6 down in front of your feet and then just watch them just explode, and there'll be nothing left in front of you. The rocket launcher side of things hits like a truck. I mean, I had a missile hit for 1.2 mil, which is huge, which is crazy damage, and obviously we've got 8 or 9 rockets, so we're doing almost 10 mil. Just from one skill activation and obviously firing rockets, so it definitely has a punch to it. The only problem we've got, and this is probably going to be the main con, is the fact that because it's a skill-based build, you do have cooldowns to rely on, and obviously getting those down as low as possible is the main factor. But when it comes down to it, there's going to be some tiny downtime where you're going to struggle and you're not got any skills life leech going because you've got no skills, and you're just having to rely on whatever weapon it is that you've got, and you've got to back yourself up with it. Now, that being said, it's not like a massive problem. You do have high enough armor, you do have high enough health, and you do have a way to be able to sustain yourself. It's just a case of you've got to pick your fights, and you've got to know when you've got to back off. You can also just space out your skills. So if it was a case of you chuck down all 6 of your clusters, and then you just activate your rocket launcher, step away, and then just fire a rocket every time someone gets close, or they just become into a pack or something like that, and then that should be enough for your clusters to then come back, or your pain launcher, and then just carry on from there. So there is a balance to it. It's just a case of, yeah, just go ham. Just destroy everything that's in your way, and hopefully there shouldn't be much left in terms of when you actually skills do run out to be able to then just mop up the rest with your gun. The interesting playstyle about this build is that you can play one of 2 ways. Like I've said, you can either stay at the back and you can just put all your clusters down as a proxy mine and a minefield, and then wait for things to come to you and then just deal with them and react in that kind of way. Or you can then go like the aggressive playstyle, the close range kind of style that Technomancers aren't really known for, and just run at things and then just chuck your clusters right in their face or on the floor right next to them, and then just watch the mayhem pretty much ensue. So I had a lot more success with the latter, and just running up to things and just chucking mines everywhere and then just watching them get staggered and interrupted. But obviously, that's not going to be for everyone, and it's not necessarily the best way to sustain yourself. So I wanted to give you an idea of both, so you can choose which one's best for you and which one you fancy doing. And that, Babylonians, pretty much wraps up my bombing run Technomancer build. Now, I hope you've enjoyed the gameplay in the background, and I hope I've done a great job of explaining to you why this is such a good build. Is it the best build to be able to run a Technomancer on CT15 on gold standard and speedruns? No, it's not, but can it consistently deliver gold and easily enough on CT15s? Yes, it definitely can, and I do think this is more fun and more engaging than any firepower build that can be made for a Technomancer, because I like the idea that we've got skills, I like the explosions, I like the way that we've got different ways that we can kill enemies. Now, if there was a way I could combine this with a firepower build, I probably would, but I do think this is probably, for the time being, the only way that we can go in terms of explosions, and I think I've done a great job, and I hope you do pick it up, I hope you enjoy it, and if you do pick it up and you try it out and it works for you, drop me a comment. If you did pick it up and you think there's some changes we can be made, then let me know in the comments section. We'll quite happily pin that in over there, and we can definitely, between us as a community, make sure that we get the best kind of explosive Technomancer build that we possibly can. And that pretty much is it. So keep yourself safe, keep yourself well, and I'll see you on that next video.